Another Power Pack session ahead of us. For this, I invite on the dais Mr. Harsh Dhand, Research and AI Partnerships, APAC lead at Google, and post that would be Mr. Balakrishnan, Director Google Cloud, for their presentation. Thank you.
Thought Leadership Series, industry luminaries share their journeys, inspiring the next generation of business leaders.
Super. Can we get the slides projected up? Yes, awesome. Thank you. Good. Good afternoon, everyone. Good to be here, getting people back after lunch. I hope everyone got some food for thought, because this session is about not just telling what are the transformative powers of AI, but the fact that it's not a solved journey. There are lots and lots of exciting challenges ahead. And in fact, answering that last question around the jobs and productivity, we'll touch on that to some extent. So over the next 25-30 minutes, I'll break down my talk into 4 parts. Start with the AI trends. So latest to first, the applications in life and business. All of you are sort of pretty esteemed businessmen here, so we'll see some of the business applications. And I'll touch upon scientific frontiers. This is one area which is seeing a huge revival, if you know, from a scientific discoveries, all backed by AI. And then I'll spend some moment about what was briefly mentioned, but I'll go into depth about inclusive AI, open models, and how a country like India can actually leapfrog into the AI era. But before we dive in, just a check. Why are we all here? All of you as enterprises, business leaders, somewhere there is a part of you which perhaps matches with that first statement, at least it does for me, which is that no technology has us dreaming bigger than AI itself. And what you will see on this moving curve, once it rolls around, is that this is not an old story. This has just come about in 2015, 2016, with the start of the first architectures for Transformer, the famous paper called Attention is All That You Need. I often joke, humans are today losing attention. It's so hard for us to have attention for 30 minutes, whereas transformers are leaping ahead because they have bidirectional, multi-directional attention, and they are able to ingest that as a neural net. So for all of you who are aware, LLMs are built on the same neural network that our human mind is, but then it went through a lot of innovations that you see over the last 10 years, which brings us to today, and we'll talk about some of the AI trends. The disclaimer in my talk is I generally want to talk about the generations of AI. Maybe Gemini is a word or a model that comes to me more often, but my trends are more across all Gen AI. So the first thing that we saw was from generation 0, where we discovered large language models, transformer architecture. The first thing we saw is that you can give a very large context, and that's why the compute is necessary. So a context window of a million tokens, 2 million, and now 10 million tokens means that in one go, that architecture, that model is able to ingest thousands of books, hundreds of videos, and a huge amount of data, which again, perhaps matches with the most intelligent human beings. So this was generation 2 somewhere in 2022, which was the long context window came into action. After that, so there are a couple of videos, but maybe I'll skip that. After that, most of you would have heard this term of agentic capabilities. Agents are these autonomous vehicles which allow and which act on behalf, and they are able to invoke and call on the LLMs for specific tasks. So today we have truly, since 24-25, truly entered the agentic era, which allows for these agents to not just act on our behalf, do actions on our behalf, but now obviously agents are talking to each other. Some of you might have heard of the MCP protocol, the UCP protocol, which is very important for commerce activities, where agents are able to take charge and do some actions. Now, in the last part of my talk, I'll also talk about how important it is for safe and responsible action of these agents, underlying LLMs, and so on. Because again, we have seen recently, last week, the LLMs, the agents break into and start hacking. So we don't want to have such situations. I would say the latest trend is this is the idea that some of you might have experienced that today youngsters, but perhaps all the way from school kids to elderly, are producing a lot of creativity. Again, there is always this healthy debate. If all creativity in text, images, videos is taken over by LLMs, what is human role? We are seeing it working with enterprises, creators like Shankar Mahadevan, A.R. Rahman. They obviously rise a step above, where they are able to get the first draft of a lot of this creative insights from the LLMs. But after that, they fine-tune it and then they work on it on their own. So that was sort of the evolution. Super quickly, this all comes together, as I think our previous speaker showed, that if you are able to bring the compute, the models, the APIs, and then surfaces where either consumers or enterprises can talk to each other, or they can conduct their day-to-day business that is there. So again, coming from the company Google, we are sort of fortunate to have this vertically integrated stack. Now, after knowing where we are, I want to spend a few minutes on what is coming up next, because some of you are curious, what's coming up next. So this is if some of you have heard the term AGI, which is the general intelligence, the artificial general intelligence. This particular concept, which is called the world model, is, think of it kind of the closest towards AGI, because this allows for the model to have the entire context of the world inside it. And it is able to generate real-time, synthesize it, and generate a model and a simulation of the world, which then feeds back to whether this is correct or not. That is as close as we are right now to AGI, still a few years out. But once the models and the agents start sort of learning self-correction, that is what AGI is. Again, there is a very healthy debate going on whether AGI is good for the society and not. At least the responsible AI companies and countries. So for example, India, US, EMEA, Singapore, Japan, they are all talking to the frontier labs that what does AGI dawn means. AGI dawn means when AGI comes, will all productivity get shifted and so on. So all those are ongoing debates. But I wanted to show you about these world models. So imagine that you have a text prompt, and this will show you exactly where these models are. And you have a text prompt and it starts correlating with the world. So instead of actually going into the sea, you can tell it, I want the point of view of a surfboard, right? And this kind of a thing is generated with all the physics, and you can see the shadow. It's super hard these days to say whether this is real, but this is an AI generated one because it understands the physics of the world and it is able to generate it on the fly. Similarly, if you want to have a sort of a small snippet of skydiving in the Alps. So this is generally how hopefully the Alps looks like. I have not been there, but if you want to change it, like it's winter time, right? So again, the world is created and synthesized there, and it is able to change. Or if you are a Marvel Avengers fan and you want to add some rings to it, so it will say, sort of add rings, and it will add it to the same environment and generate. Today, people are able to generate fairly long context games, environment synthesis for this. Now, this is on the creativity side. You can obviously start extrapolating it. Imagine taking it to the sciences, like the life sciences, material sciences, and so on, where if it is, or the quantum, or nuclear fusion is today being addressed through some of these models, where it's able to simulate the actual scenarios without having a wet lab or an actual lab do a nuclear fusion. So again, going back to the Hollywood style, like you don't have to have a fusion experiment to see it live or burn up a city, but you can actually simulate it using some of these models. So that's really the power of where we are today. Let's take a step back towards what is happening on ground. So those were some of the, I would say, videos from our science lab in Google DeepMind. Where we are today is we are in a very, very fortunate place called APAC, Asia Pacific, where we have observed that this is the most progressive continent in terms of AI adoption, whether it is societal adoption, whether it is students, or whether it's the government asking for AI. Part of the reason we believe is that I think there are huge leaps. Like if you today go to any government office, with all respect, the processes are still seeming like 20 years back. And the whole idea is that if those processes can be simplified, automated, digitized, that would be amazing. NHA, the National Health Authority, last week launched what is called as the Arogya Setu 2.0, which is really the dream of every Indian, that my digital health record, my previous tests, my Apollo records, my government hospital records can be digitized there. So every government office that we speak to, or I'm sure that you are speaking to, are thinking, what is my 2.0 version which is powered by AI and is allowing faster and better processes? I'll take a couple of quick examples, not to harp on the point. This is again, I think a lot of us know in terms of languages, India is the most diverse language, the way we speak, the dialects, the accents. So people have picked up a lot of these models, built their own Bharat GPT. They don't need a foreign GPT to see. And they are able to service a lot of the call centers as well as understand languages across board. So language was the first frontier that we captured. Similarly, agriculture. Now, agriculture, again, we have seen transformations. This one brings agricultural intelligence to Indian farmers. All of you are familiar with Google Maps, I'm sure. But imagine that every field in India has its own identity, its own area marked. So instead of doing aggregation and AI at a district level, you can actually give that intelligence at the field, farmer, crop. I call it the FFC model, which is every field associated with the farmer and the crop. So this is assuming that foundational layer is there, just like UPI, a farmer will be able to apply loan rightly to a bank or a subsidy rightly to the government because both parties will have that same data set with them. I'll show this in one more detailed slide later. Last thing I would say is, again, there are areas like health, as I mentioned earlier, and education. So this is one example of Health Vani, with which the government of India is saying all ASHA workers should actually be using some of these apps for diagnosis, but not for actual telling what is the condition. So mostly our recommendation is that this should be used as a triage tool, which means finding out what is the risk element and how soon should this patient be sent across, or are they in a better position at home. So these are some of the cases that we have seen work quite well. As I mentioned earlier, so our mission as any good frontier lab is to build AI responsibly to benefit humanity. I'll end this section on one good example. So in 2024, the Nobel Prize for Chemistry went to a computational lab. The reason was that what used to take decades for amino acid to protein structure was now actually done in a few hours or days using this LLM, a very specified LLM called AlphaFold, which today has deciphered all the 200 million proteins. It's used by 3 million scientists across all the countries. Now, again, I get this question. AlphaFold has solved for all protein structures. You have taken away PhD hours. What next? And the answer is interesting because these 3 million scientists are perhaps using these decoded protein structures for such problems. Plastic is the biggest problem right now for humankind. How can we have plastic-eating enzymes designed? And this is not a dream anymore, as I said in my first slide. This is a reality today. Or antibiotic resistance, which is a huge issue in countries like India and Asia, or malaria vaccine, or the neglected disease. Now, once you have the protein structures identified, these scientists with all respect, do not have to waste a decade on that and can move on to the next application of these protein structures. So that is essentially what we are saying, is that LLMs will kind of elevate the human scientific endeavor, creativity, and productivity. So as I said earlier, we can allow this sort of massive knowledge bank and technology to go free, or we can develop it in a responsible manner. These are some of the things. I'm sure you will hear different things when you talk to different policymakers. But essentially, how can AI be socially beneficial? How can we avoid any sort of biases? And our team is working in India extensively on this part, which is the bias removal. How is it built for safety? And then how is it accountable? We cannot, again, please understand, LLM is a stochastic model with a lot of knowledge. It's very hard to open the box and say, okay, this is a prediction of what it will say. Because then you are going back to the deep learning era. You're not talking about LLMs. Unfortunately or fortunately, I go across many panels with the government where they're like, okay, you have to open up and the data that you feed is the data that you get. The answer is no. The data that you feed is not the data that you get. The data that you feed allows the LLM to build a world model, a knowledge bank, and from that, just like a human being would do, if me and a twin of mine are given the same schooling, still our responses to different environments will be different. And that is the reason why LLM's responses are based on that data, but they are not exactly mirroring the data that is fed in. So I just wanted to clarify and demystify, because I see a lot of people talking about that. Okay, the last section of my talk before I hand over to a good colleague of mine, Bala, who will take us through a lot more enterprise examples, which perhaps will excite you more. So in India, Google DeepMind and Google Research, we work on things like inclusive AI. What does inclusive AI mean? We want to have information in all Indic languages. We want to work on agriculture. And the last thing is, there's another sort of right concern. These LLMs are energy guzzlers, which means that they take up a lot of energy, water, resources. So there is an equal and a strong effort to improve the LLM's efficiency, again, through research technologies. Please understand, this is a technology which is 4 to 5 years old. So achieving efficiency is top of mind for research scientists, because nobody wants to blow up billions of dollars in energy. But just to give you examples, Indic languages were the poorest representation 3 years back when we used to compare, sort of Indic GenBench versus English. But thanks to efforts across all frontier labs, across Google, DeepMind, across startups, today the performance is much better. There is also this effort by the Indian Institute of Science, which is going to every district. We work very closely with them, and to collect at least 2,000 hours and have an overall language map of India. If we have those districts and captured well, then we'll be able to use that for AI. And again, it's easy to forget because we are sitting in a native Hindi speaking, or most of us are English speaking, but I'll maybe take 30 seconds to show you the dialect difference, if this works.
प्रगति मैदान जाएंगे कैसे?
प्रगति मैदान कैसे जाएं?
ही प्रगति मैदान कैसे जाएंगे रे?
So this was an actual scenario where every 30 kilometers we asked the people to say this context in their own language. And if they speak in their own language, there are these variations. So if human mind is somehow able to understand, how do we ensure that LLMs also understand and codify this language across different dialects and so on? So that's the work that is being done under Project Vani. In fact, the Prime Minister's Office, or PMO, loves to call it the Google ISC 100 language project, which is an interesting thing in itself. Cool. So today, I think if you use any of the tools, obviously, as I said, for me, Gemini is the go-to tool, but you go to Gemini Live, it will support all 25 plus languages, and we are going up to 50 fairly soon. And this covers things like Maithili, Santhali, Manipuri, and all that. So this is one idea. The other aspect is language is not just about words. It also has a lot of history, geography, context embedded into it. So how do we ensure that what is a picture in Tamil Nadu is rightly deciphered as a picture in Karnataka and so on? So how do we analyze features? How do we give the correct answer based on the context? So there are these projects that are going on. Just one slide on agriculture, and then I think I'll wrap up in a couple of minutes. So as I showed you, imagine a scenario, especially for banks present in this room, that instead of sending a lot of surveyors, you are able to get the geospatial imagery of all the farmlands of India, and you are able to also see what was the crop sowing pattern on these fields over the last 5-6 years. So you can see the applications for farmer loans, crop insurance, stubble burning, which is a big issue from north of India, from Punjab and Delhi. Farmers are super intelligent. They know exactly when the satellite will cross. They will have the stubble burn 12 hours off peak of the satellite crossing. But again, there are these things that geospatial imagery with less than half a meter resolution is able to capture. One thing I'll say, we are not allowed to publish those under the geospatial laws of India, but we can give such results that other people can use for their own applications. So that's really the vision that we have for some of these projects. Okay, I might not have full time, but let me leave you with a sort of a term for those of you who know Gen AI, Gemini. India and all the sort of sovereign model developers today can bank on something called Gemma. So Gemma is an open weight model, and it is the most efficient open weight model that has been produced. It allows you to actually host it in your environment. So maybe I have so today we are on what we call Gemma 4 version, and it allows from the most smallest models, like literally a 1B to a 2B, 4B model, which imagine that there is a surveillance camera. Now, a surveillance camera has to decipher a number plate, a face on the spot. It cannot afford the latency of being inferenced on the cloud. So these are few cases, plus there are also sovereign cases in terms of health and financial data, where you can actually host some of these models on your prem, again, using any of the cloud providers that you prefer. You can fine-tune the model, and then the inferencing can happen really at runtime. So these are some of the capabilities which are coming up, and today they understand everything. They understand the vision around you. They have agentic reasoning, function calling, audio understanding, and complete text understanding that we can think of. So truly we are at this sort of good point in applications. As I said in the beginning, there are these open challenges. While we have improved a lot, but complete efficiency, complete factual correctness of these models, or safety, bias removal, these are still open challenge. And trust me, across India, across APAC, and across the world, there are people dedicated to help solving a lot of these problems. And as we solve these problems, obviously we'll be able to decipher and decode a lot of other human problems. So my takeaway, I think all said and done, AI is here. It's impacting all of us. It's giving a huge boost to capability and productivity. It's also a huge opportunity for AI models and sovereignty and solutions that you can build or take it back to your tech team. And any way that we can help you, any of the large companies like Google, Microsoft, Sarvam, Bharatjan, we are all based here in India. Any way in which we can help you in your AI journey, we are very, very happy to do that. With that, I'll pause and maybe call on my colleague Bala for the next session. So.
Good afternoon, folks. I guess for the next half an hour, my competition is not AWS. My competition is actually those couple of rasmalais which would have made their way to everybody's stomach and keeping you all, alive and kicking and hopefully not put you to sleep. 2:30 before the lunch break, right after the lunch schedule. Sorry, before the tea break. So I think Harsh spoke about the possibilities of where AI is going and the transformative power. So I just wanted to start off with something very simple. Right? I was just looking at my mobile and I saw that there is a flight to Bombay. And I was wondering, why is it showing a flight to Bombay? Then I realized that I had accidentally booked a ticket to Chennai, which was supposed to be for August 29th, and return on 31st July August 29 to 31st August, and I booked it as 29th July to 31st July. So the mobile hasn't still picked up. I've cancelled that ticket, but it's still not picked up, right? AI is still showing me that I still need to return to Bombay. So I think there's still some way to go for all of us as far as, 100% accuracy is concerned. And I think that's essentially the biggest difference when it comes to putting AI into production, right? When you look at a car, when you look at a production setup, whether it's a Maruti or a Toyota car, you need to really make it absolutely 100% functional with all the safety, aspects, all the shocks, it stands up to, and then get it out into the market. So you need that to be, you can't let out a 99.5% or 99.99% car ready out into the market. They do, and then they recall, but that's a different thing. With AI, you can actually do a lot of that in production. You're never going to get perfection. So you are going to do a lot of sidecars into production, do some incremental changes and keep on moving. So incrementality is probably one of the augmenting intelligence, right? If someone asks me what AI is today, it is augmented intelligence and not artificial intelligence, right? You have to keep on, incrementally improving it all the time. So what we believe is that there are three avenues through which sort of enterprises are solving problems. The first avenue is through the frontline worker. When I say frontline worker, it could be the shop floor person, anybody who's out there in front of the customers, anybody who's out there, moving the process forward in terms of build out of something. So as long as you can start empowering a frontline branch, representative, or somebody who's doing collections, or somebody who's at the front end of selling to a customer or engaging a customer, anything to do with that, and straight look at the third point, and the third point is about how do we really do a better job in front of the customer. I still get, maybe depending upon whichever credit bureau you go to or whatever data you have about me, I can get a 50,000 loan, I can get an 11 lakh loan, I can get a 50 lakh loan as well. It just depends on which bank is sending me that message. It depends on what information they have about me. So there's still a lot of goodness which can be built in as far as customer experience is concerned. And then I think the people who put in all those speeds and feeds and the technical differentiations, which is the knowledge worker. Right now, when I say knowledge worker, yes, it can be coding, but it can be domain knowledge as well. It can be just a treasury finance document which can be extracted in such a way that, yes, it is near 100%, not 100%, but at least it can be straight put up as a process so that you still reduce the time of initial straight-through processing. So there are various areas where we see that, enterprises are trying to solve problems. But I think what AI is doing today is, while you can appeal at a much more global level, you can still appeal to a power of one. The 50,000 to 50 lakh loan which I spoke about is actually personalization not perfect. And so you're slowly getting there. I think each of us are now starting to get personalized offers on our mobile, personalized calls. So there's a lot of personalization which is happening simply because unstructured data is getting populated and getting processed and getting better and better. And therefore the AI is improving on the back of that. I think this is the best time to do voice analytics. I think absolutely, that's been the exponential improvement over the last year. And Harsh spoke about the Indic languages. And I think there are a lot of examples where, voice can now straight away take over, not only bring efficiencies in it, but also incrementalize, your revenue offerings. And we'll come to an example on that. We spoke about, the dialects which are slowly getting into, 25 languages, including some of the ones beyond the mainstream languages which are coming in. And therefore, a lot of it, what we see is this the right time to invest in technology infrastructure? Absolutely yes. Because if you get that right, like for us, I think owning our own infrastructure as far as AI was concerned, as we call it the TensorFlow processing units, was probably the biggest benefit for us because we could really, allocate that to DeepMind, allocate that to other divisions, allocate it to customers. And so we could sense very clearly that that layer is most important. I'll just take one example. A lot of training, as people called it, was built on over GPUs, right? NVIDIA GPUs, all are famous out there. But what we did with TPUs was that we built what is called as memory bandwidth, which is most important post-processing in terms of requirement of inferencing. And most enterprises will actually need inferencing. That's the significant architectural difference. Our competitors anyway had to go and then, tie up with somebody, hardware or software to get it done. But I'm just saying that the thought process behind technology breakthroughs quite often comes much earlier. So we own that entire stack, right from the infrastructure all the way to agentic AI offerings, including data, including security. We have all the layers out there, and I think it makes it a very compelling and comprehensive stack from our perspective for customers to use. So I'll take a example, absolutely silence, right time to maybe sleep off, but I just want you to remain with me for 3 minutes. All of us do, CV sifting, right? Which means we take CVs online and then we sort of go through that. AI is just sort of improving that process. And so we'll probably see how it goes. Sorry, is it not too clear? Be a resolution problem. Okay, yeah, it's getting better. Yeah, so what it means is there's somebody applying for the job at a portal. It's asking for the form, application form. Post the application form, it's asking for the CV. And so the candidate is uploading the CV. So it's going through the uploaded form. It's trying to understand if there are any discrepancies or anomalies inside the form. Truly is thinking, right? That's why I said there'll be silence in between. Yeah, so it uploaded all the details, and so it now says that, okay, for your authenticity, please give me your PAN card. So it's actually loading your PAN card. It's gone through all the details. It's extracted all the details. Now it's asking for additional details. So our PAN card has got updated. Now it's asking for proof of permanent address. So now we are uploading another document for the permanent address. It's also asking, is the PAN card name different from your full name? So we say yes or no. Asking for blood group. So, the process is, it's actually processing as it is taking in data. So it is doing all the clicks as far as all the documentation is concerned. And so the form has been submitted. Now it's asking for educational certificate. So it's going and uploading your MBA certificate. So it's already going through the details of the candidate's educational qualifications. So there's one more documentation of a secondary certificate. Maybe you've done post-graduation or a PhD, so it's asking for those additional details, so it's taken that additional detail, it's taken your email ID, and it's done a resume summary, right? And it's flagging of certain critical flags and anomalies. So, and there are certain recommendations that investigate this, investigate that, all of those things. Now, this can be done at scale. So, the first important point is this can be actually done at scale. So everything is done, salary slips, everything is done. So the entire process has got completed. So this is ready for our reviews in case a human in the loop needs to review it. But if you think there are too many anomalies, we just move on to better candidates. So it's just that it is able to pick up anomalies which the human eye might not be able to, right, in that sense. So we'll go on to another one where, so this is an interview assessment. So we normally do a hire, no hire, right? What this interview is saying that using AI, you can actually come to a better judgment. You need not dismiss the candidate. You can do a much more objective evaluation and probably aid the process of development of the candidate.
Overall. But here's where it gets interesting. Our platform doesn't just give you a score, it breaks down exactly what that means. Attitude is 65%, aptitude is 67%. She shows promise, but with an engagement gap. Her technical skills are solid. Authenticity, on the other hand, is 74%, which means she's genuine and credible. But here's a critical insight everyone misses. The candidate has a confidence paradox. She scores 56% on engagement and 80% on vocal authority. What does this mean? She can command a room, but she doesn't do it consistently. That's not a deal breaker, it's a development opportunity. Our system identifies exactly what needs to be fixed. First, there's an engagement gap at only 56%. She needs to participate more actively, ask better questions, and show real enthusiasm. Her technical depth is at 62%, which has room to strengthen domain-specific knowledge. Third, the truth quotient, which is at 11%, tells us her response shows some guardrails. She might not be fully open in a group setting. Instead of wondering hire or no hire, you now know exactly how to set her up for success. Here's what our system recommends. High priority, structured engagement development, focusing on communication and multi-location operations. Medium priority, technical depth coaching and controlled speech pattern. Feedback to help her project authority naturally. The beauty is, these aren't vague suggestions. Each one has an owner, a success metric, and a timeline. So instead of a binary hire or no hire decision, you get a strategic onboarding roadmap. She isn't 67%. She's a candidate with clear strengths, identifiable gaps, and a concrete path to excellence. That's the difference between hiring and building your team.
So quite often as leaders, we interview candidates, and after the interview is over, we can't decide whether we want to go ahead or not, because the candidate was great in many parts of the conversation, and there could be few doubts in a few areas. Now what this does is, it gets so granular that it actually gives you a development profile for the candidate even before the candidate has joined. And I think, yeah. Yeah, so this is not, so this works on Google's technology, but it is an ISV who's built it.
No, my question is more like the data that you have fed in, because there's so much more than just the scorecard, or the students' certificates. So do you also have to feed in certain psychometric tests to eventually get this aptitude and attitude scores? Because there's so much of insight into the candidate. It's brilliant, but I just thought, is there something more to it? Okay, great question. So I think the point was, are there psychometric tests fed into the candidate? This is purely based on your voice. So it's picking up your voice in the interview, and from the voice, it is
it is neuroscience. Basically, it is breaking down the voice into mathematical models and then understanding intent based on emotion.
NLP, okay.
Yeah, and where it would come into the picture is in one of the next slides which I show. When you're trying to do collections or when you're trying to upsell, the intent of the customer from that can be understood. I think they have about 1,800 parameters. This ISV who works with us has about 1,800 parameters to detect voice and the genuinity and the intent and the emotions and all. So they work on a lot on that. But it's actually based on neuroscience.
Wow.
Yep.
System is just judging me based on my voice, I can dupe it into believing I'm confident, I am a leader when, I'm not.
Absolutely, you can do that, which is why I mentioned that there are 1,800 parameters, not one or two. It is based on the way you are speaking, the base, like as they said, right? Your executive presence could be a challenge. It says that truthfulness is 11%. What it has understood is that the candidate has not spoken much. Maybe they are not comfortable speaking in a larger forum. They might do better in a one-to-one forum. So it's a rounded view. You can always, dupe the system, which is why AI is not at 100%.
My question is, okay, I completely understand. But the voice, let's say, of the participant, of the interviewee, what kind of questions? You would be certainly asking some questions for the interviewee's voice to come out, right? What would those questions be based upon?
Those are normal interview questions. Whatever is a normal interview question, it's based on that only. It's based on normal interview questions which anybody would do to anybody. You're not doing this for the purposes of identifying voice. You're doing this for the purposes of identifying the candidate and what beyond the CV and what beyond what the candidate has said is information available to us to make an even more informed choice. That's what it is.
Thanks.
No, this is an ISV offer. This is what we call as an independent software vendor who works on Google's infrastructure, uses Google infrastructure, and some of our software to build their own layer on top of it. So they would use our LLM, but essentially it is their algorithm based on neuroscience which they have in the market. Exactly. So, yeah, absolutely. So, the only question here is that do biases get into the picture? Probably here it is still not yet there.
Excellent product.
Any use case of health?
It was so interesting, we couldn't avoid asking. Thank you.
Any use case of healthcare you have to showcase?
Healthcare, I think what we have done is at Manipal, we have improved the nurse handover. Because nurse handover often is a very critical area. And sometimes information gets lost and the nurse spends a lot of time, writing down what has been handed over from the previous shift owner. So I think we've sort of fast-tracked the process and made sure that during that process of medicines have to be procured from the pharma, this thing below, all of that happens in parallel rather than the patient waiting for medicines because there is a nurse handover. So it goes that little bit in terms of better patient care and improving, maybe, the patient can leave a day early if that is possible. So this is for wealth management, and again, all of us, or most of us, or most of you all in the room, yes, are accumulating wealth, but do not have time to really know how it's working out for you, right? So this is like your little spy out there really doing some work around that. So
instead of spreadsheets, he starts his day with an AI-powered platform built on Google Gemini. The heavy lifting is done. Clients are already ranked by urgency, with key risks instantly surfaced. Let's look at Amit Patel. Gemini instantly flags a critical performance gap in his 38.4 crore portfolio. Instead of waiting on overnight analyst reports, the exact insight Rohan needs is ready before his first meeting. Rohan acts instantly. Gemini launches a proactive, personalized AI voice call in Amit's preferred language. The AI discusses his exact portfolio, answers his questions, and assigns actions to Rohan if needed.
I am Priya calling from Symbol Wealth Management on behalf of your advisor, Rohan Sharma. This call is being recorded for...
So this is a sort of a, we try to make it as engaging as possible. So you're being interrupted by this call, right? Any one of us during working hours gets such calls. So this is in the
quality and compliance purposes. Do you have a moment to speak?
Yes, tell me, what is it all about?
Certainly. Your portfolio is up 9.2% this year. However, the model portfolio for your risk profile is up 15.8%. That 6.6 percentage point difference works out to roughly 2.5 crore in returns you have not captured.
Hey, can I stop you for a minute? I am recording a demo. Can I call you later?
So the person is saying, I'm involved in building a demo, which is this demo. So can you call me later? So that's essentially what we all do, right?
And once the call is finished, action is generated and synced to CRM. For a lighter touch, Rohan sends a personalized voice note directly to the client's WhatsApp. Gemini generates the exact portfolio context, meeting the client expectations. For face-to-face interactions, Rohan's Gemini Live avatar handles real-time video consultations. It introduces itself honestly, discusses exact portfolio details, and seamlessly note actions for the real Rohan. The client gets immediate attention, and Rohan's time is protected. While AI handles outreach, Rohan stays sharp with the Gemini Enterprise Hub. In seconds, he benchmarks HDFC against Kotak, summarizes complex SEBI circulars, and drafts compliant proposals. Need to recall past DTAA planning with Rajiv? He just asks, like consulting a colleague who never forgets. This is AI-augmented advisory. Every advisor operates like a full team, and every client feels like you're only one. Built on Google Gemini for India's wealth management landscape and ready to scale across your network today.
Yeah, so this truly adds a lot of productivity to everybody, right? To the organization's frontline person, to the customer at the back end as well. And a bit of that, in fact, a lot of that has been done by Bajaj. So what Bajaj has done is they've incorporated AI into a lot of processes. This is from the latest investor report, which is there. So they've done face matches, which if you can see straight away, they've almost doubled 4 times between Q1 and Q3 last year. Document extraction, another straightforward use case, they've straight away doubled it from 1.07 crores to 2.15 crores. Servicing disbursements using AI, which means AI bot disbursing loans. So from 760 crores to 1,568 crores. This is AI bot dispersing, not a human being, right? Look at the footline there, right? 21 million or 20.7 million voice-to-text calls processed in a particular quarter. Now, that is only possible if you are able... So this is no longer about sampling. You're not sampling 5% of the calls and 10% of the calls. You're actually pushing in all the calls which you get from your customers for intent. Assuming somebody said, अच्छा आपने पैसे क्यों नहीं दिया आज आपका ड्यू डेट था सर वो हम अगले महीने दे देते हैं लेकिन अगले महीने क्यों क्या हो गया ये महीना क्यों नहीं दिया आपके पास आप अगर बोल रहे अगले महीने दे रहे हो तो आपके पास पैसा है नहीं सर वो 4 गाय खरीदने पड़े तो एक तबेला लेना पड़ा. Now, the point is not lost on the intent is the person has money, they have invested it elsewhere. For a lender in a tier 2, tier 3 city, that is a lending opportunity. Cows don't come cheap, right? We all know that, it costs quite a bit. My point is, you wouldn't know that if you never went through those audios. All you know is there is a collection opportunity which has not happened, and then you go keep chasing them till it comes through. And then, so there are collection bots as well. So even those have started speaking out. So this is business metrics we are talking about, these are not metrics around how many voice calls got done, what was the failure rate, what was the success rate. They've straight away taken it and translated into business metrics. So we just thought that this is a great example of AI being put into use at a very, very large scale. I mean, we all are recipients of those calls, but at the end of the day, I think, they definitely have a method to what they're doing. Just one more, I just thought to break the monotony of videos, I'll speak about Bajaj, but this is about...
Welcome everyone. Today, we're thrilled to introduce the M&M Inventory Advisor, powered by Gemini Enterprise. We are bridging the gap between complex enterprise data and frontline execution. By securely connecting to your existing data...
So this is all about modernizing your inventory management, assuming you have vehicle off-roads, right? A lot of vehicle off-roads have issues. They break down, and you need to service them, and you are checking on your inventory, you're checking on how do you service them faster, eventually providing a better customer experience. So this is all about real-time management of
like DMS, SAP, and telematics. We transform your passive databases into a proactive advisor. These specialized AI agents that seamlessly manage vehicle off-road risks, optimize stock orders, and forecast true demand. Let's dive in and see it in action. Let's start with a complex query, analyzing nationwide vehicle off-road, or VOR status. Behind the scenes, the agent instantly breaks down this layered request. The user asks the question, which specific spare parts are causing the highest volume of VORs across the country? The Inventory Advisor aggregates country-level data to generate an executive summary, instantly highlighting major financial bottlenecks, operational risks, and the specific parts causing delays across the network. Inventory forecasting. We aim improve proactive inventory management to avoid losses and...
Yeah, so for just the benefit, it maps dealer ID, it sends the parts to the right dealer store as far as, getting the vehicle back on road. But this is all happening real time. Even the questions around, which dealer is the nearest to that off-road vehicle, how do you get across there? So it just solves a whole lot of operational issues and nightmares. So just as Harsh mentioned, a lot of our technologies come off us, but we also do a lot of dog fooding ourselves, and we call it dog fooding. So back office and support, sales and marketing. Just one example, a lot of you must be running multinational operations, treasury operations across many countries. Google also has treasury operations across many countries. So, 60 countries, 500 entities, more than 2,000 bank accounts, which we have across all our entities. And sometimes you have a lot of cash coming into one account, and then you don't know whether there's a payout happening towards the end of the week to a partner or a customer or a supplier. And imagine the scale at which cash could be lying idle like this across the world, not just in an account, into those accounts, into entities. So we developed an evaluation agent, and then we developed an execution agent. So what that does is, looks at each of these areas in the treasury: investment, FX, hedging, capital markets, insurance recoveries, operating cash. So it predicts excess balances coming into certain accounts, understands if there is a payout happening out there, then goes and talks to various banks as to which bank is providing us preferential rates of lending and deposits. And accordingly, we place those short-term or long-term deposits depending upon whatever is the need of the hour. And so the evaluation agent does which investment proposal is best, and the execution agent just goes and places it, as well as does all the settlements and the accounting as well. So a lot of mundane cognitive toil removed with augmented intelligence out here, and that just supercharges human productivity. Chrome is another example. What I see in my Chrome would be different from what maybe Harsh would see in his Chrome, what Harish would see in his Chrome. So we personalized marketing for Chrome, and we were able to get people to adopt Gemini inside Chrome much faster. We put it to use to our own internal support teams as well. So we've seen a significant improvement in self-service there. Just wanted to leave that there is no magic bullet. There is no silver bullet saying that you shoot it and you'll get AI right. So there are no AI-shaped holes that straight away plug it in, right? It's something which you have to keep on working along. But the opportunities you can rapidly iterate. Also referring to what I mentioned first, you can't wait it to be built till the full automobile is ready. You actually build on it gradually, improve on it, iterate on it. And so good enough is great to start. You cannot be looking for perfection out here in this case. So few learnings, bilingual workforce, somebody who's great in the domain and good in AI is going to help with AI fluency across parts of the organization and have the entire information grounded, as we showed in the Mahindra case, in the enterprise's data with their governance structures. And then I think a lot of enterprises see true value in this AI world. I did have one more 3-minute movie, but I can't show that right now because I'm totally off time. That entire movie is scripted by AI and built by AI, but thank you. No. Okay, I'll show just a minute, not much. Just a minute. Okay, just 1 minute. Just 1 minute. Entirely built on video, entirely, nothing.
does not ask for a ruler. आज हमारी मिट्टी पर ग्रहण लगा है. It asks for care.
I'll just speed out so that it probably. So this is the title so that you all know. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, both Mr. Dhand and Mr. Ibala, for those very interesting.